What's going on, everyone? It's the My Aggie Nation Podcast. I'm Travis Brown with the Eagle alongside Alex Miller and Zach Taylor of WTAW. Later, Robert Cessna will join us in our second segment. But for now, you're stuck with us. Guys, what's going on?
It's going, man.
Yeah.
It's kind of cooler outside. I wouldn't say it's cool, but it's cooler.
Is it though?
I always enjoy this kind of skybox view we get of you. For those of you who aren't watching on the video, Zach is kind of like, it's kind of this hovering pylon cam.
Yeah, it's the ESPN3 version or the ESPN Ocho version, I guess.
There you go.
I don't even know what that is. No, don't do that.
Does Alex even know what ESPN3 is? Was that before your time?
I know what ESPN3 is. Come on.
ESPN3 is still around. What are you talking about?
No, it's ESPN.
The Ocho?
It's Watch ESPN.
Oh, Watch ESPN. That's what
it's
it is.
The same thing.
If you want this somehow ridiculous angle to watch the game from the entire time.
All right, Travis, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about A&M football, of course, because it's football season. A&M beat Kent State 41-10 last week. They're heading to Denver to take on the Buffs in Empower Field in Denver. Zach, you've been to Denver a few times.
Yeah, I've been outside the stadium.
Where's some tasty places you've eaten in Denver?
Oh, gosh. Really from a food standpoint, we kind of went in and out of Denver. I went with my dad a couple of years ago. We didn't spend just a whole heck of a lot of time downtown, really. We went to the
baseball game, though, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Coors Field, and so we got to try out the food there. And then we went to the Coors Brewery, which is in Golden. So we really didn't do a lot of stuff downtown. So honestly, I don't have a lot of recommendations for you. I've heard the Grizzly Rose is the place to go party, right? Or at least that's where a lot of the Texas country guys go.
I went to Denver for my buddy's weddings, like right out of college, so like 10 years ago, and went to the Coors Brewery for like a pre-bachelor party kind of thing. And it was my buddy and all of his friends from Nebraska who he played baseball with, and they were just dead set on getting a giant, those like coolers you see at the gas station that look like the can of whatever that they are selling inside the container. It's one of those, but Keystone Light. And so we rented a really fancy hotel in downtown Denver, and we're just pushing the Keystone Light cooler through the hallways, trying to raid ice machines to fill it up for the evening. Buckled it into the front seat of the van. It was great. Anyway,
like another member of the party.
It really was. So, Zach, let's start with you. Observations from the Kent State win. What were your pluses? What were your minuses from what you saw from A&M's first showing of the season?
There was a lot of rust, and that was kind of to be expected. Some pluses. Caleb Chapman looks like he's doing pretty well. Broke away for that 50-plus yard catch, so that was good. Haynes King showed a lot of promise. I wouldn't say that he had a great game. I don't think you can ever throw 3 interceptions and have a great game, but I think Aggie fans got a taste of what he's capable of. And I just mentioned that 50-plus yard pass. I mean, he put great touch on that ball. He made some really good throws. He did try and force one of those picks. He did try to force it in there. The other two ended up getting tipped. Isaiah Spiller and Devon Achane are going to be 2 forces to be reckoned with. I don't care who they're going to be playing. I think everybody knew that coming in, but Achane getting more involved in the ball game now than he was last year. And I really think those 2 guys going in a rotation and rotating out is really going to be beneficial for the run game. The offensive line, it's hard to tell this early on, and I think you kind of take it with a grain of salt because they went up against Kent State. Overall, I would probably give them a B if we're doing grades. I know I didn't do any for the other 2, but there were times where you could see that pocket starting to collapse a little bit around Haynes. And, yeah, he got rid of the ball quickly. I think he only got sacked 1 time, if I'm not mistaken, maybe twice. There was a blown blocking assignment on that 4th and short at midfield. So that's when they ended up turning turnover on down. So offensive line was okay. I tell you, the big question mark to me is the run defense, because 220 plus yards on the ground, the Kent State. And I realize it didn't look like that much until you go back and you see the stats and you think about some big runs that they were able to pull off. And I mean, that without a doubt was A&M's strength last season. They had teams only averaged 92 yards against this run defense. That was never supposed to be a question mark, right? Nobody was ever supposed to say, well, where's the run stoppage here for this Aggie defense? But they did have some issues against Kent State. You wonder how that's going to look against teams like Colorado, who really like to run the ball, have some misdirection there. And going forward, obviously the SEC, you got a ton of good running backs. So could that possibly be a question mark moving forward? I don't know. We'll see. You have a question.
Oh no, I'm just cheering you on.
hand.
I kind of realized I'm now playing with the reactions on Zoom, and I realized that I can give you. It's like around the
horn.
Yeah, I can give you points and
all short of the buzzer that you can give me. Ding ding. Ding,
yeah.
ding. No.
Anyway, now I can't get this thing to go away. Alex, what were your takes from the game?
Yeah. I think Zach nailed him. A lot of promise from Haynes King. He definitely looked pretty natural, pretty confident back there. And, Jimbo said it too, even after making some of those mistakes, he continued to throw some of those risky passes and try and get into some tight windows there. And really his demeanor just didn't change. And, I think that if you're A&M, you got to like that. You got to like that your freshman or redshirt freshman quarterback, in his first start, even when he faced adversity, still went out there, still had confidence in himself and with the other guys on the field. Yeah. And to the run defense, I wonder how much of that's indicative of the way A&M was playing. Kent State would spread the field really wide with those 4 wide sets, sometimes in an empty look. And for a lot of the game, A&M played that dime coverage. So, linebacker is a position of strength. Linebacker was a position of strength last year. I think Buddy Johnson was a big reason why A&M was so good at stopping the run. I mean, he led the team in tackles, was really good at filling those gaps, senior leader. But when you only got one linebacker right there, I mean, it would make sense why, a safety or a nickel is making contact 6-7 yards downfield instead of maybe 2 or 3. So, I'm curious, how Colorado seems like a team that's going to run the ball more. What kind of alignments are they going to have on offense? And, does A&M shift more back toward that standard 4-2-5 look that Elko kind of normally rolls with there?
I would think so. I think, like we were saying, a lot of the issues with and Jimbo kind of mentioned this as well on Monday, a lot of the issues with the high run totals was more schematic. They were out there in a dime with one linebacker the whole time. The linebacker was a spy. The error that was made there was actually being overly aggressive, not necessarily holding their position and pushing the runner into other unblocked defenders. And so, yeah, you get back to that base 4-2-5, have 2 linebackers back there. I think that'll help solve that problem. Colorado is a team that's going to run the ball a lot more. They have a freshman quarterback. It's not going to be the same kind of Kent State was a decent offense last year, and they brought back a lot of pieces, and they only put up, this was my other thing, they only put up, 118 passing yards against A&M, and that was passing the ball, throwing the ball is what they were going to do. Good on the defensive secondary, especially without Miles Jones, being able to keep that at bay. They kind of sold out on the pass a little bit defensively, which gave them the run. I just don't think that's necessarily going to move up. I was decently impressed with the offensive line too. I think that, there was 2 holding calls, and actually surprisingly, both holding calls were on their 2 more veteran players, Jameer Johnson and Kenyon Green, in the game. And Kenyon Green actually ended up still getting SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week, even with a holding call. So I think that you didn't hear a lot from the offensive line. There wasn't really necessarily anything brought up other than those 2 holding calls, and that's kind of what you need from an offensive line, especially one that's replacing 4 guys from last year. So I will be really interested to see how they go up against the defensive front at Colorado, and see if they is still as much as advertised against a little bit stouter defensive front. Let's delve a little bit further in. I know, Zach, you brought it up first, but the thing that everybody really was curious about and wanted to see is Haynes King. The guys that Devon A-Chain said was when they're running sprints, he's right up there next to him. He's electric. He has the legs. We all knew he was going to be able to run, and there was that one play, I believe it was at the second or third quarter, where he rolled out one way, reversed field, came back the other way, picked up 14 yards and a first down, and Kyle Field went nuts, and it was a very exciting play. I think we were expecting one or two of those this season. How did you feel the pass game was?
Kind of going back to what I said, I mean, you saw some touch from him. I think he's got plenty of arm to play in the SEC. I'm not going to say he's got the strongest arm out there. I think Zach Calzada has a better arm than Haynes King does, but that doesn't always make the quarterback. Like we said, he looked poised. He looked like he knew what he was doing. It wasn't a deer caught in the headlights type of look. He went out there. He was able to run the offense. Jalen Wademeyer even told us, hey, he came to me in the huddle and said, why don't you try this? Why don't you try running this route or moving up a little bit in the way that you're lining up, and then I can hit you. You'll be a little bit more open in that situation. So that really impressed Jalen. I think winning the guys over in the huddle, and it seems, at least at what we've seen, that he's done that. And yeah, I think being a quarterback, and not to always make things a baseball analogy here, but it's a little bit like being a pitcher and giving up a home run whenever you throw an interception as a QB, right? You can learn from it. You can figure out what you did wrong. Okay, well, I made this pitch here. Next time I need to come back this way. Well, that can be applied the same way as throwing a pick. But you also have to have a short memory. And it was good to see A&M try and stretch the field out. And that had been something that they had not really done in the last couple of seasons. It seems like it's something that Jimbo Fisher is ready to commit to, is willing to commit to. He wants them to do that. And Haynes had a couple of those. Like, I go back to that 50-plus yarder. The interceptions that won, I mean, he stared, I believe it was to Wademeyer. He was trying to feed it through a couple of defenders, and he stared him down and chucked it right into the breadbasket of a defender. So that's something that he's going to have to learn to do, because you might get away with that at the high school ranks, not college. The other two, you could say, well, the quarterback is always going to get the blame of that. But in a lot of ways, you can say that was just bad luck with the tip at the line. And then you also had Wademeyer tipping the ball up, and it went off a couple of people before it got picked, that other one. So, I mean, that really is what first games are for, right? Knocking the rust off whenever you're not playing another Power 5 opponent and you're playing a team that you're expected to beat like they did against Kent State. And he definitely had to get used to things, but I think in front of that crowd and everything else, I think he did pretty well.
Yeah, I think that we talked to Jimbo today on the SEC teleconference, and he basically said that on those two tipped ones, the right decision was made. He made the right read. The throw was just a little bit off, not in the right window. And so he was happy with the decision making. The accuracy is something that can come, and I kind of tend to agree there. Alex, what'd you see?
Yeah. Haynes, like I said, pretty natural back there. You liked what you saw when he made a mistake, came back out, still going after it. How about the speed? We saw that one player, he runs to the A&M sideline, looks like he's about to get tackled, runs all the way around, and then was able to get the first down. So, we've heard about this speed, we've heard about this athleticism, and then you finally get to see it on the field. That really adds an extra dimension to A&M's offense and what they're able to do with him. At times Kellen could run, but it seemed like Kellen just didn't really have that breakaway speed. Haynes might actually have that. I think that might be able to take A&M's quarterback position to the next level. And yeah, you hear from Jalen Wademeyer on Monday, and he's saying, Haynes is coming to the sideline. He's already coaching up, talking with guys, discussing, hey, I saw this. And, Travis, we talked about it afterward. You see Jimbo hearing that from a reporter, and he kind of perks his eyes and in his mouth with a smile. I'm sure for a coach like him, he's happy to hear something like that his quarterback's already taken initiative in that regard.
Yeah, the two passes that stood out for me, other than that, well, three really. The first one is, I think maybe one of the best passes he had of the game was actually the one that Anaya Smith dropped there on his seventh throw, second drive. He went 6 for 6 through the the first drive of the game, had that one that he threw a strike on that kind of post route right up the middle of Nice, and Nice actually dropped it. It was a great throw right over the middle and really impressive. The next one, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember, at least recently, Kellen Mond making a throw like this, and it was on that 3rd and long, I believe in the 3rd quarter, where King was flushed out to the right and hit Weidermeyer on a pass that he dove for and got it, but it was a key first down get there later in the game. I don't remember Kellen throwing on the run that much. Am I wrong there?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean,
especially later in his career.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he made plays out of the pocket, but yeah, now that you mention it, as far as play action passes or just rolling out and trying to find a guy across the middle, there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of that. There's those things are complicated. I'm not saying that Kellen can't make those throws. He might have just chosen not to try and stay more in the pocket. And another thing too is he might not have had to make those throws, at least last year, with an offensive line that was keeping him upright all the time. So if you have that kind of pocket, why would you have to ever roll out?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a versatility that it's nice to see spectating, but you don't know what led up to having to make that play a little bit. The last one, of course, is then the was it 53-yarder to Caleb Chapman over the top. The accuracy on that deep ball and being able to stretch the defense is something that A&M hasn't demonstrated very much in the last couple of seasons. And not only having the vertical threat of Caleb Chapman, but being able to have the freshman quarterback drop it in there when he got past the defense is pretty huge. Those are the 3 throws that stood out to me.
Yeah, Alex, I agree with you.
You got anything else, Alex?
I think you hit it. And yeah, so
I lost count of my shuffle here. You had already actually answered that question, so I forgot where we were.
You're the third. You're the last in line.
Yeah. So Colorado this weekend. What I know we got some questions answered. We got to see what Haynes King was able to do. We got to see what this offensive line was able to do. What are you interested in seeing? What questions do you still have that need to be answered against what will be a little bit stiffer competition, Power 5 competition?
I'm interested to see, will Miles Jones be back? I know that Jimbo is answering some questions today. He was back at practice yesterday. I think he makes a world of difference in that secondary. We didn't really touch much on the secondary's play against Kent State, but it was pretty obvious Brian George was getting picked on quite a bit. So having Miles Jones back there at the corner position will be huge, I think, for A&M moving forward. Healthy. He needs to be healthy when you bring him out there. Can Haynes progress? I mean, that's what you want to see from a young player, right? You want to see him getting better and better each and every game. This is still a non-conference game. It's still a game in which you're pretty heavily favored in it. Can A&M answer the bell? Can A&M perform the way that they need to? And this is an early road test. Yeah, it's in Denver, but Boulder is a suburb of Denver. So it's not like Colorado. They're in their own backyard here. There will be lots of Aggie fans there, no doubt, but it's not the same as, say, going to Dallas against Arkansas at Jerry World. It's a little bit different. So basically going on the road, facing what could be a hostile environment, will A&M be able to answer the call? Will they be able to take care of business? Because, again, you're the 5th-ranked team in the country, right? You're not supposed to be having issues with teams that really aren't – I wouldn't say Colorado's not on the radar, but, I mean, they've got a freshman quarterback. They've had a lot of turnover. They got a pretty solid running game, but overall they're a team that A&M should be able to handle if you're the 5th-ranked team in the country, right? So we'll see come Saturday.
One thing I'm still interested in is – what does A&M have at linebacker? You know, we talked about how they played a lot of dime package last week. You know, I'm curious to see how having a 2-man rotation in there instead of maybe just one. We saw a lot of Edgerrin Cooper, saw some Aaron Hansford, some Andre White, but how does that position really work out for the Aggies? And you know, like Zach said, I'm curious to see Miles Jones return. I'm curious to see how they use Michael Clemens as he's coming back from his suspension. And yeah, I'm curious to see what A&M's going to do against a team that's Power 5 and is going to run the ball. So yeah, and hey, is Ralphie going to run? is Ralphie going to run? That is the question.
Well, that's something we'll ask in the next segment, but I'll close out with this. I'm actually interested in, and this might spark a little bit further discussion, but today in the SEC teleconference, Jimbo Fisher was asked about some of the secondary receivers like Damon Demas and Moose Muhammad. And you can't put the name Damon Demas on Twitter without getting 200 likes, because he's the most popular guy on the A&M football team for reasons that, I mean, I can understand, but I also kind of can't understand. I don't, not to say that there's any reason to necessarily see these guys, because the guys who were the first teamers were doing a great job catching the ball and moving the chains. But do you feel like there is an issue with needing to get those guys some more playing time to keep them happy? I know we're not in that locker room. We don't know, but what's your thought on why this guy is so popular, and are we going to see him anytime soon?
Well,
go ahead, Alex.
When Damon came in to A&M, I mean, he was the guy. He was the vocal leader of that recruiting class. He was the 5-star athlete. He had all the trouble trying to play his senior season, wasn't able to play when he transferred. UIL denied him eligibility. We've seen the tape of him doing the flips and being athletic and catching those crazy passes in high school. Unfortunately, the college level is just a big jump, and missing a full season of tackle football, that's hard. And Damon's a pretty skinny guy too. It seems like he's gotten a lot bigger over a year, but he was also hurt for a while. He's sidelined with a foot injury. So it takes time to heal. Takes time. We've seen it takes time for guys to learn this offense that Jimbo Fisher runs and really become successful at it. I mean, Kellen Mond, it was really that third year where he really took off in that offense. And like you said, Travis, they have guys on the perimeter, Caleb Chapman, Chase Lane. They would have had Hezekiah Jones had he not gotten hurt in preseason practice. That they're pretty consistent, solid, proven guys that you're going to have to beat in practice. And, we saw Damon in the fourth quarter. But, it's kind of interesting how he continues to be brought up when they have guys like Caleb Chapman and Chase Lane making plays. I guess we'll see what will happen. But, that's just kind of my thoughts on the whole Damon Demas situation.
Zach, do you want to see more Demas?
I would love to see what he can do. I mean, he sparingly played last year. And again, I don't think it's a thing where Jimbo is actively trying to keep him off the field. He's been dealing with injury, at least so far this season. And so people see the physical attributes. They saw everything that he did in high school. You know how it is with recruiting and fandom. I mean, they see a kid coming in. He's always going to be the next big star, right? So people blow up this idea in their mind of this is going to be the difference maker. This will be the kid that finally is able just to put this program on the map. And I'm not saying that, one, the A&M's not on the map. It is. And then two, I'm not saying that Damon Demas could not be that kind of player in college. But learning with this offense, and as Alex mentioned, being out of football, of tackle football for an entire year or more, I mean, that there's something to be said for that. And then coming into college, having to learn this very expansive offense that Jimbo Fisher has, and then, of course, staying healthy. And that's been the issue, I think, this year. Up until now, everybody has raved about just his work ethic and everything else that he's done and how far he's come from learning the playbook and all the intricacies that go along with the pro offense. Yeah, you would love to see him out there. But at this point, I mean, you got guys like Chase Lane, Jalen Wademeyer. You've got Caleb Chapman, as we talked about, who right now looks to be that deep threat guy and very well could be the premier receiver that folks want Damon Demas to be. Well, Caleb Chapman very well could be that guy. We just weren't able to see it last year because he got injured early on. So it's a good situation to have if you've got so many cooks in the kitchen, then it's hard to fit everybody in. Not everybody's going to be able to bake their bread, but the bread just smells so good from that's being baked
Someone's
by
hungry.
the cooks and the chicken. And, well, yeah, I had a pretty big lunch, but I'm always hungry. That being said, yeah, no, you'd love to see what he can do. You'd love to see what Moose Muhammad could do. Keith Brown has been talked about a lot this offseason. Love to see what he can do. There's not a lack of talent at wide receivers, just a lack of experience. And how it's all going to shake out, we'll see going forward. But again, going back to kind of the idea of having this recruit who is going to be the next big thing, and how do you keep him happy? How do you keep him on campus? Because obviously he's going to be the all-star that everybody thinks he's going to be. That's fans. People blow up these guys in their minds and think that they are going to be the next big thing. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. Not saying either way for Damon, but we'll see how it shakes out.
I agree. I think that mostly where my question and comment goes from is you look at what they did at linebacker. They had, especially with just one linebacker, they started with Edrin Cooper. They had Aaron Hansford in there. They had Andre White in there. There was a rotation there. They had the rotation at running back with Isaiah Spiller, with Devon Achane, with Ernest Crownover coming in, even doing some stuff in there as well. Curious to see how much rotation they'll have on the at wide receiver. And but also, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because they did a really good job, the starters out there. So just always a fun and fascinating exercise to just put Damon Demas's name on Twitter and see all of the reaction that it garners. What I leave out, what's the spread?
Okay, so here we go. The spread is 17 points.
Okay.
Does A&M cover? And I've got one more bet for us this week after we pick our spread.
Oh,
Zach,
look at that. I think A&M covers this week.
Okay.
I did not think they would cover last week, and save from a couple of doinks off the goalpost, I would have won that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I think they cover the 17 this week.
I was watching Scott Van Pelt's Sports Center, and on Bad Beats, that was what was led with was the A&M Kent State kicker
chip
missing
shot.
missing two of them.
As it should be. I think, Alex, to go back to our prop bet last week was who would score the first touchdown. I don't think anyone picked that one right? Correct?
I think I technically got it right, but not really.
He said Haynes King, which was not with his legs. He meant throwing, so he didn't say.
Well, I picked that A&M would cover. So
there you go.
Okay, Zach or Travis, who you got?
I think A&M will cover. What's the prop bet? Did we get there yet? I think A&M will cover.
I pick A&M to cover too. Okay, I'll throw two. One, does Colorado rush for 200 yards? Because A&M allowed over 200 last week, and Colorado seems like they're going to be a run-oriented offense. Also, does Ralphie run?
Colorado ran for 281 yards in their first one. Top in the Pac-12. Yeah, I think they run for over 200 yards, but I don't think they get much passing yardage. And I still don't think that. I mean, it can be pretty easy to run for 200 yards if that's all you're doing in a game. Yeah, I think they do, but I don't think they get over 300 total yards. Okay. Or if they do, I don't think they get over 350 total yards. Okay. Is my call. And well, I feel like we have a little bit of insider trading on this. I think because for those listening, we actually recorded the second segment before this, so you'll understand what we're saying when you listen to that. Yeah, I think Ralphie runs. I don't see why not. They might not run in front of the team like I believe Coach was saying last week. You know, they had a whole big thing where because not to spook young new Ralphie kind of ran on her own away from the team. So yes, Ralphie runs, but not in front of the team as normally is custom. And Zach, you'll get this reference. I just wish it was Jim Knox that was running Ralphie.
I do wish it was Jim Knox. What is Knoxy up to these days? Let me see if he wants to come on the podcast. That would be an amazing get. So yeah, I'm going to agree, since apparently y'all have some insider information on that. I love to take my hot tips that Ralphie indeed will run, but I do not believe that I do not believe that Colorado runs for 200 yards. I'm actually thinking it's going to be around 185, somewhere around in that vicinity.
There you go. Book it.
I'm going to say no to both. I'm going to say Colorado does not run for 200 yards, and for some reason, Ralphie will not run. Although I hope she does, because that would be a beautiful sight to see.
There you
majestic
go.
Buffalo.
That majestic Buffalo in majestic Denver. That's where A&M will be this weekend, and probably a lot of you will too. So thanks everyone for listening. This is another. Well, no, this isn't. This is the first segment, even though we've done it the second one.
Yeah, stay
tuned.
tuned.
Just go ahead and say, stay tuned. Thanks for listening to this first segment, but stay tuned for the second segment where we'll have Buffalo Daily Camera reporter Brian Howell on to break down a little bit of what's been going on with Colorado this season, and he offers at least one tip of a place to eat in Denver if you're heading up there. So that's next on the My Aggie Nation podcast.